Yeah, and he didn't delete his Twitter or anything. He just said,
No.
"Wow, people were saying mean things," and that's about it. That's all that really happened. And blogs quoted him and all that, and he's been in interviews and such. So I guess in a sense he's still mad about that, but I don't think
I wouldn't
he's
say he's mad.
disappointed. I guess is the right word.
Upset, yeah.
Upset. Well, look at that Lion King emblem.
Perturbed.
You see that guy's Lion
Oh,
King it?
wow.
That's
That's,
badass.
that's pretty cool.
That's a weird Timon though.
Well,
It looks like a monk. I don't know what that's supposed to be.
you criticizing it?
No, that's badass. That's better than my crappy Domo. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
I was saying something.
Probably related to David Vonhar.
Oh God, I don't remember.
Like he's not really upset or mad.
I said he's perturbed.
Okay. I guess we
Oh,
can end on that note.
yeah. Coming up with
All
all
right.
sorts of synonyms for mildly annoyed.
Got my thesaurus.
um, no, from what I gathered from how Bernie was talking about it, he was, taking it pretty well. Uh, though a lot of the greater internet community will either defend the people that were saying that, or they'll just comment it by saying all Call of Duty players are dueling idiots anyways.
Yeah. And I think the right way to approach this kind of thing is to either ignore it or just don't bring too much attention to it, like Phil Fish and David Vonhar sort of did. David Vonhar,
I wouldn't say David Vonderhaar really brought more. I think David Vonderhaar actually brought less attention to it than other people.
yeah, but you know, like I was saying, like not that much as Phil Fish, and
I think Phil Fish pretty much blew it way out of proportion.
yeah, I mean he deleted his Twitter. He's not back on Twitter as far as I know, but I just stopped following that dude at that point.
I think
But
I follow like 8 people on Twitter.
yeah. But I mean, people are gonna say mean things to you regardless. It's the internet. People have the freedom of speech, and they can say whatever they want, essentially. And at some points, they're gonna say really vile, vulgar things, and you're gonna take that with a grain of salt. You're gonna either ignore it, abuse it by fighting back the words they're saying to you, and say even meaner things,
Pretty
and
much.
just wasting your time essentially,
I know
or
you are, but what am I?
exactly.
Yeah.
And just ignore it. Just deal with it. And things like that are going to be said. And just know that more positive, unless you're a douche, there's probably a chance that more positive things are being said to you than mean things. And that small percentage of mean tweets are from just probably disturbed individuals or people who have nothing better to
Especially if
do than to
someone's
speak
telling,
hatred.
especially if someone's gonna say, "Dude, I wish you would die in a gas
Yeah,
chamber."
that's mean. I would never say something like that. Like I have called people, douchebags or faggots, but most of that is through a different context. Like I'm not dismissing people outright. Like I'm not gonna leave a nasty comment to a gamer tag and say, "Wow, go kill yourself" or whatever.
I think, thankfully, when it comes to the whole YouTube thing, the worst comment I've ever heard is, "Wow, you guys are bad," with horrible grammar. So I just laughed at them.
Yeah. Anyway,
Really.
I think we've talked enough about that subject. So, lesson learned.
I just.
And that goes to anyone doing other YouTube videos. If you're a YouTuber, you're watching this, which thanks. Just go with that mindset that no matter what, people are gonna say mean things. But like I said, if you're not a douche, unless you're Phil Fish, unless you're doing crazy things, there's always more positive feedback than negative.
I gotta say, I guess I know a lot of the bigger YouTubers, probably make a bigger deal out of their subscribers. Not saying I don't care about subscribers, obviously I do. That's why I upload videos to YouTube. But I guess random people on the internet that I'll probably never meet in real life don't have a single iota of effect on my life.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense at all.
I gotcha.
I mean, I guess some people will say that's being pretty cold, but I don't know.
That's how you feel.
It just doesn't strike me as, I mean, how people can get so worked up over the internet. I mean, seriously, you're thousands of miles away. You're probably not even going to hear from them again unless you egg it on in like YouTube comments. And it takes more time to sit there, and I can pretty much guarantee most of the comments I've seen, it took more time for the person to come up with what they were going to say than it did to type it. Especially
Right.
with some of the grammar and spelling that I've seen in these arguments. I mean,
And
friggin' chimpanzee can type better than some people I've seen.
and think of the amount of time that someone puts into making a game, or like David Vonnevar, like putting together levels and game design aspects. You know, I don't know how to make games. I don't know what David Vonnevar specifically does, but I'm sure it's
I
hard
don't know what
work.
he specifically does, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the extent when it
Yeah.
comes to AAA titles like Call of Duty, but I do know for a fact programming and how difficult that is.
Yeah, like even Phil Fish,
Because
he and another guy who I'm sorry for forgetting your name, he made an entire game. Granted, it's a small indie game, but it's well received. Crazy good game. Xbox Live Arcade. It's on there. You can play right now. Play a demo of it. It's crazy. One guy pretty much made an entire game, and that is no
look at Minecraft.
exact.
I mean, albeit now they have like a full team, but that originally started some dude in, what is he, Swedish? I think.
I believe so.
I think he's
Yeah.
Swedish. Yeah, some random guy in Sweden was like, "Yeah, I want to make a game."
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think he actually had some like prior programming experience at least with some other company. But even still, I mean, I'm using this one programming language. It's called QBasic.
I've heard of that.
It's an old DOS programming language.
Yeah.
But they have, a 64 bit version for obviously newer Windows and stuff. And making I made the most complicated program I've ever made is a calculator in that game. Simple addition, multiplication, division, subtraction. That right there took me 30 minutes. Yeah, about 30 minutes to write it out, but it was probably somewhere close to about 40 lines of code.
Nah, I wish I could do something like that. Like all I've been doing is making music and like editing photographs, making crazy album artwork, which I guess to some degree that is an art form that you can respect as much.
But seeing as I've done it myself, yes.
Yeah.
I can fully appreciate what goes into producing music.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like as we do with video games, like programming, like the stuff you mentioned, that
Yeah.
stuff goes to video games too. Like granted, calculators and shooting fake M4s are different topics altogether, but equally, it's the same thing pretty much.
Also, I highly doubt someone can make a a first-person three-dimensional shooter using QBasic. It wouldn't. It is literally impossible. They can give the illusion of 3D probably by having different layers of two-dimensional, but I do not think so with that program specifically.
And I'm not saying that people who program and make music that they're any better than people who leave nasty comments or anything. But I'm just saying, like,
Well.
they put a lot of time and heart and effort into making the things they make, and to just ridicule them in the most douchey way possible is just not cool.
Personally, I will say that I will say that someone who makes music or video games is better than someone who leaves nasty comments, because that person, spent hours upon hours of their life developing something that usually on YouTube they're giving away for free, and you spent 5 minutes just completely attempting, usually failing, but attempting to ruin that. So,
Right.
the way I see it, you leave a nasty comment, you're not a good person at all. I mean, technically, from my experience, you're not a person, you're just some random segments of code forming a sentence. But, you know, I'm going to get technical. I guess technically they're not random, they're pretty coherent, but now we're getting into semantics here.
So that's our thoughts on that whole subject. You know, if you guys are interested to hear our thoughts about that, and maybe you learn something new. Maybe you learn something that you want to use later in life. You know, I'm not saying this is like the freaking Bible we're discussing here, but just common sense, everyday life lessons. Just try to be a nice person. Try to respect people for who they are. Like, you know, if they're gay or whatever, if they come from a different country than you, we're all the same person in a sense. I know that sounds cliche and whatever, but you know, just learn how to respect each other. That's all I gotta say.